Okay, UFC Fight Night, Hill versus Rountree from Baku, Azerbaijan. The first ever UFC card from the country of Azerbaijan, and it's main evented by two Americans in the light heavyweight division. I don't entirely get that, but it's okay. It's okay. You know, it's a fight that's been scheduled twice before and it hasn't happened. Let's hope it actually does happen this time around. Regardless, the co-main event, huge fight. The Azerbaijani Rafael Fiziev takes on Ignacio Bahamondes. Curtis Blaydes, Rizvan Kuniev on the card as well, and then two other Azerbaijani fighters. Nazim Sadykhov takes on Nicholas Motta, and Tofik Musayev, the former Ryzen and Bellator fighter, makes his UFC debut at 35 years of age to take on Muradbek Orolbai. So we've got 12 fights on this card this week from Baku, Azerbaijan. I think the card's just on ESPN Plus. I originally thought this was going to be an ABC card because it's going to be during the day. It's at about, I think, noon. The main card's going to start out here on the West Coast. But regardless, main event, Hill Rountree. Hopefully it finally happens this time around. And folks, before we get into the predictions, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for some more weekly UFC predictions here on the channel. Next week, a huge one. International Fight Week, Ilya Topuria, Charles Oliveira for the lightweight championship. And also tomorrow, we're going to have our PFL World Tournament number 6 predictions. In the main event, Gadzi Rabadanov takes on Kevin Lee in the semifinals of the PFL lightweight tournament. Go make sure to check out that video and go subscribe again for more PFL and UFC predictions here on the channel. We are inching closer to 1,000 subscribers, so let's make that happen here on the channel. We're going to have some additional MMA content here on the channel once we hit 1,000 subs as well. On the main channel, Greedo plays daily MLB and NBA best bets. Okay, go subscribe to Greedo Plays. On to our first of 12 fights today, kicking things off with a barn burner. In the women's bantamweight division, Irina Alekseeva versus Claudia Sygula. Hey man, you know, the undercard starting at what, 8:30, 9 out here? I'm gonna have to get up early just for this fight. This is what gets, you know, this is what gets you going early in the morning. Irina, the Russian Ronda Alekseeva versus Claudia Sygula, two fighters who have a combined record of 1-2. This is just an apex fight that they somehow got to Azerbaijan. Irina Alekseeva is her first win in the UFC, was her first fight in the UFC, was her first win over Stephanie Egger. I still don't know how she won that fight. She was a plus 250 dog. I guess Egger was not as good as we thought she might have been at times. I don't know. She had a really competitive fight at one point in time against Tracy Cortez. Regardless, Alekseeva wins the fight by knee bar in the first round. She does an emote like, oh god. Ihor Poteria did at one point in time when he knocked out Shogun. Like, Alekseeva does a 30-second celebration after she wins the fight, and then her next fight she loses to Melissa Mullins. Sound familiar? Yeah, Claudia Sygula's only loss in her only fight in the UFC is to Melissa Mullins, where she got finished in the second round. So Sygula is 6-1 professionally, 0-1 in the UFC, only 26 years of age from Poland, and Alekseeva 34 years of age and 1-1 in the promotion. Okay. Claudia kind of just got dominated in her last fight. Like, really nothing was going on for her. Melissa Mullins outstruck her. Melissa Mullins took her down and just had top control the entire time. Eventually, Mullins got the finish on the ground, had Sygula's back, and eventually picked up the TKO win in the Apex. And for Alekseeva, her loss against Melissa Mullins wasn't as bad. Actually, she put up a pretty good fight. She ultimately lost. Melissa Mullins pretty easily, I thought, won the second and third rounds just with her wrestling. But the first round, Alekseeva, it was a stand-up affair, and Alekseeva actually did knock down Melissa Mullins in the first. Fighter who actually isn't that horrible. We'll get to Melissa Mullins' fight in a little bit. But Alekseeva didn't look too bad in that fight. We've seen that, okay, she's not a very good wrestler. Sygula, I wouldn't say she's a wrestler. Not really. Nah, she's a striker. She fought bare knuckle once upon a time against Karolina Sobek, a former PFL fighter. Alekseeva will win. She's going to. I don't think Sygula has the grappling credentials to win a fight on the ground against Alekseeva. But even that, like, Alekseeva did somehow pull out the knee bar against Stephanie Egger, which was just really weird. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Russian Ronda. That's great. Irina Alekseeva, I think, is going to win the fight by decision. Contrary to popular belief, I think she's just going to outstrike Sygula, personally. I think we're going to see a striking affair for the most part, just because I don't think either of these fighters are going to be willing to engage in a grappling match, considering they both lost on the ground in their last fight. At least, unless Alekseeva thinks she has a grappling advantage, which she might. Sygula, former bare knuckle fighter, I think. I'm going to go with the Russian here. We're going to go Russia over Poland in this fight. I'm going to go Irina Alekseeva to win this fight in our opener against Claudia Sygula by unanimous decision. She's 8 years older, too, so I'm going to go with the veteran. Not like that means anything. Give me Alekseeva. Our second fight of the night, we move now to a matchup between Seung-Hyun Ko and Oban Elliott. Two fighters obviously here at welterweight. Originally, both of these guys were supposed to fight on May the 31st in the Apex. Ko's opponent was going to be Billy Ray Goff. Oban Elliott's opponent was Ramiz Brahimaj. Obviously, Brahimaj and Goff ended up fighting, in which Brahimaj actually beat Billy Ray Goff. Oban pulled out due to visa issues. Ko pulled out due to visa issues. They're both now going to meet up outside of the States and now here in Baku, Azerbaijan. For full transparency, we had both of these fighters winning their fights. Obviously, we had I forgot. I had Billy Ray Goff over Seung-Hyun Ko. Yeah, actually, that made sense at the time. Anyways, I don't know why I thought Ko was fighting Ramiz Brahimaj. Anyways, Seung-Hyun Ko, this is a fighter coming off the Contender Series, beat Igor Cavalcanti over there by unanimous decision. Didn't look that bad in that fight. Outstruck Igor. This is a guy coming over from did not fight in road, fought in AFC over in South Korea, which is Angels Fighting Championship. I'm just gonna be honest, not moved by that. 11-2 record. I say this sometimes with these Asian fighters. Going through road to the UFC is pretty tough. It is, because you have to win a tournament. You got to win 3 consecutive fights to get in the UFC. Ko got to, obviously bypass that and get a shot in the Contender Series, in which he beat an undefeated guy. I'm going to give him credit. And the thing is, Oban Elliott shouldn't be fighting guys coming off the Contender Series anymore. He really shouldn't. Oban's 3-0 in the UFC. His first task was Val Woodburn, right? The guy who had to step up on short notice a couple years ago and fight Bo Nickel on International Fight Week. Well, Oban beat him by decision. He then goes on to beat Preston Parsons, and his best performance was his last fight in New York, UFC 309 against Basil Hafez. He puts out Hafez in the first round and knocks him out. So I don't know why he's going backwards now and having to fight Seung-Hyun Ko. Again, I fully expect Oban Elliott to win the fight, and I fully expect him to win this fight by stoppage. I'm going first round knockout for Oban. I actually think, I'll go second round knockout for Oban. I think he's better than Seung-Hyun Ko, okay? I just think he is. I think Ko, this is too much too soon. Again, we had Billy Ray Goff to beat him, but I just think, again, this is a guy who had trouble against Han Sul Kim back in double GFC in December of 2021. He's only fought 4 times since, and the guys he's fought are a 5-4 fighter, a 28-27-6 fighter, a 7-7 fighter, then obviously Igor Cavalcanti. Oban's been going through some UFC guys, and I get it, Woodburn's not a great UFC opponent, but Basil Hafez, he'll give you a scrap, and Oban, outlasted Hafez and really just dominated that fight, eventually picking up the knockout late into the fight in the 3rd round. I like Oban a lot in this fight. He did get clipped by Val Woodburn, if you remember, in his first fight in Anaheim, California, but other than that, he was completely fine. That was just kind of Woodburn's entire game. I'm just going to swing, I'm going to throw. I throw hard, so if I land, I'm going to probably put you down. But other than that, Elliott really just outclassed him. Also, Oban can go to the wrestling here too, but I think we're going to see primarily a striking fight. And I think eventually, yes, Oban is going to find that shot that's going to put down Ko. Ko's nickname is KO, because that's his entire last name. But I'm going to go with the Welsh gangster here. I'm going with Oban Elliott to knock out Seung-Hyun Ko in the 2nd round. I just think there's levels, right? Elliott, up-and-coming prospect, only 27 years of age. Obviously, this fight just got, put together because both these guys dropped out of their last fights, and their opponents ended up fighting each other, so now Ko and Elliott are matched up against each other, which makes sense, but I just think Elliott's on a different level than Seung-Hyun Ko. I think his striking's better, and I think ultimately Oban, the Welsh gangster Elliott, beats Seung-Hyun Ko by 2nd round TKO. Let's go on now to our 3rd fight of the night, and we go to Hamdi Abdelwahab versus Mohammed Usman. Now, I am recording this video before UFC Atlanta. I just got to get some videos done early this week. So I don't know if Marty beat Buckley. I don't think he did, but if he did, shout out to Kamaru, who's probably a fight away from the belt again. I assume Buckley won, though. Anyways, Mo Usman is fighting a week after his brother Kamaru, and he's fighting here on the undercard against Hamdi Abdelwahab, who technically is only 1-0 in the UFC because his first fight in the promotion back in Dallas, Texas on Nunes Pena 2 did get overturned. It was a victory over Dontel Mays that eventually again got overturned because Abdelwahab tested positive for, I don't know the drug. But anyways, 2nd fight in the UFC, beats Jamal Pogues. I'll be honest, Abdelwahab did not look good in that fight. He won, I guess. I thought Pogues won watching it the first time around. just not a great fight. We had Pogues to actually win the fight. It wasn't great, kind of a boring striking affair. Abdelwahab entire game, at least coming into the UFC, were kind of sold on a really good grappler. And Don'Tale Mayes, that's what he did to Mayes, obviously. And hey, that's not a bad victory, because Don'Tale Mayes at one point in time was ranked number 15 in the UFC's heavyweight division, and that was in the last 6 months. I'm not serious. I am serious. It's horrible. Anyways, Abdelwahab, the Pogues victory, it doesn't move me at all, man. But the thing is, Usman, it's like, this guy started 3-0 in the UFC. He got lucky, knocked out Zach Pounga, which I'll give Usman a lot of credit for. I guess Pounga wasn't really as good as we thought he was going to be. They just kind of rushed Pounga, I thought. You know, he looked good in the contender on the Ultimate Fighter, beat Jordan Heiderman, who ended up fighting in the PFL, lost to Usman, went down to 205, beat Jordan Wright, but then they gave him Bakauskas and Bogdan Guskov. He lost both those fights, and now here he is losing in XFC. He lost to Alex Nicholson? No way. That's bad. That's really bad. Anyways, Usman then beats Junior Tafa in one of the worst fights you're ever going to watch. Jake Collier, Usman beats. Not a very good fight. Actually, that wasn't horrible. It's just one of those fights where, you know, you got two heavyweights late in the fight are kind of just, you know, grasping for air. Mick Parkin fight, Usman got outclassed. Before, obviously, Mick Parkin's last fight, boy oh boy, lost to Marcin Tybura. And then Usman's last fight was a loss to Thomas Peterson, who I think's all right. I think he's an up-and-coming guy. He lost to Shamil Gaziev. We know what, again, Gaziev can do. You know, Peterson looked all right in the Don'Tale Mayes fight, did what he needed to do in his last one. Anyways, Abdelwahab versus Usman. You're going to see a striking fight. I believe so. We'll see how willing Abdelwahab will be in the grappling department here. Because Thomas Peterson did shoot a couple takedowns against Usman. He didn't have much success, though, holding Usman down. Because obviously, again, that's Usman's thing, right? We talked about that boring-ass fight with him and Junior Tafa. Why was it so boring? Well, the entire thing about that fight was Junior Tafa's swinging big, you know, overhands. He's, with every punch, Tafa's trying to put Usman out. Obviously, he's grasping for air, like he's dying. He's, you know, his cardio's, you know, actively depleting with every shot he throws. And Usman's just kind of trying to hold on, grapple, and drag Tafa down to the ground. Usman eventually does more of that than, I guess, Tafa lands. But then I look at the fight that he had against Peterson, right? Peterson takes Usman down twice, doesn't have much success with it. Usman's victories, other than Tafa, have been by strikes. The Zach Pounga knockout, the Jake Collier fight. It was Usman going out there and striking. I know he landed a takedown the Collier fight in the third, which ultimately won him the fight, but one judge had Usman actually winning every round. I don't know. The determining round actually was the Usman wrestling. But I don't know where these guys land in terms of wrestling abilities against each other. That's my dilemma in this fight. I'll just say it. I think Abdelwahab's going to win. I really think so. I just don't know how. Because I could see Abdelwahab trying to grapple, not having all that much success. What I'm getting to is I think this fight's going to be boring. I hate to say it. Because I think it's going to be kind of a stalemate for most of it. I think both these guys are going to be kind of hesitant in throwing because they know the grappling that's going to come back at them. Like, okay, hear me out, right? I'm just hypothetical. Usman throws a big shot. He looks to land a big right, and Abdelwahab ducks under and tries for the takedown. I feel like the threat's going to be there on both sides. So I have a feeling this is going to make for a really boring one, and then we're going to get, you know, like, oh God, what's a good comp for this? Marcin Tybura versus, oh God, Russian guy at one point in the UFC. Oh, it's bad. I'm blanking on his name. Hold on, I'll get in a second. Like, that fight was really boring. It was just a lot of Tybura grappling and holding his opponent up to the fence. Maxim Grishin, that's who I was looking for, right? That's kind of what I think this fight's going to be. I kind of think it's going to be like a Maxim Grishin versus Marcin Tybura type fight. I know it's a random-ass pull. But, like, I could easily just see one of the two guys, which I think is going to be Abdelwahab. I know Usman's like very physically strong, but Abdelwahab was on steroids, and he might still be on steroids. He's fighting Azerbaijan. I mean, I don't know anything about the country of Azerbaijan except for their MMA fighters. I'm so serious. I didn't. This is gonna sound bad. I was in high school when I figured out who Tafik Musayev was fighting in Ryzen and Bellator, and primarily in Ryzen. I was in high school, and I didn't know how to pronounce the country of Azerbaijan until I realized who Tafik Musayev is. Like, I knew it existed. I just didn't know how to, like, I thought it was just, like, Azerbaijan or something. I probably didn't even get that far. Like, I just didn't know how to pronounce the country's name until I, watched the Tafik Musayev fight. Anyways, I don't know what their state athletic commission's, or their country's athletic commission's going to be. I'm so serious. I have a weird feeling Abdelwahab is going to be able to be on the roids in this fight. He's been on roids before, and it's probably still in his system. He only got, what, 2 years? Okay, actually got a while off. But I don't know. I feel like Abdelwahab might be kind of stronger in this one. I know Usman looks like he's on roids too, but Abdelwahab has actually been popped for steroids. Has Usman been popped for steroids? I don't think so. No, he hasn't. Yeah, I'm going Hamdi Abdelwahab to win the fight by decision. I think it's got all the makings to be a really boring fight because you're going to see two guys just trying to grapple each other. I think Abdelwahab is going to win in that kind of cage holding position, and I'm going Hamdi Abdelwahab to win the fight by unanimous decision. Again, I'm not really pumped at all for it, though. Let's go on to our next fight here as we move to the rematch you didn't know you wanted, but it's actually not a horrible rematch, actually. For a women's fight, I'm not too against this. I'm just confused why they're making it. But Daria Zheleznyakova versus Melissa Mullins. So this is not a figment of my imagination. Like, I remember watching Daria Zheleznyakova and Melissa Mullins on YouTube. I cannot find that fight anymore. Maybe Aries just took that fight down because they're about to fight again, but I can't find the fight anymore. It's a fun first round. It really is. Both these two kind of throw. Ultimately, Mullins gets the fight down, and she lands some big shots, gets Zheleznyakova down, and Melissa Mullins ends up finishing the fight on the ground, winning by ground and pound with literally a second left to go in the first. So that was the first matchup. That was on November 3rd of 2022. Since then, Zheleznyakova beats a 5-3 Marie Lusau, beats Montserrat Rendon, and then loses to Eileen Perez. How did she get a UFC contract? I don't know. Zheleznyakova, I don't think is that great. Again, Eileen Perez kind of just dominated her. And Melissa Mullins, and I get it, Perez is a top 10 fighter now, but Melissa Mullins, her only loss in the UFC is to Nora Khanol, where Khanol kneed her to the body and eventually finished her. Mullins is coming off victory over Claudia Sygula, but Melissa Mullins also can't make weight. She weighed in at 138 against Khanol, and then Sygula in her last fight weighed in at 137. The Arena Alekseeva fight, she actually weighed in at 135.5, but I guess it's something to look at. In this one, that Mullins hasn't made weight in back-to-back fights, and if she doesn't make weight here, she's going to get cut. Probably. I think she'll beat Daria Zheleznyakova, though. I've already seen this fight before, and I'll be honest, I don't think Zheleznyakova is that good. I just don't think she is. I'll be just brutally honest with you. She beat Montserrat Rendon. All right, Montserrat Rendon is not a good striker at all. She's a wrestler who I don't know if she can hurt a fly. You know, I'm just going to be honest with you. Oh, she's supposed to fight Melissa Mullins last year? Really? See, I feel like Melissa Mullins is kind of better than this low-level bantamweight. The problem is, though, the UFC is going to keep booking her like a low-level middleweight until she can actually make weight. That's the thing. Middleweight, bantamweight. Until she can actually make weight. That's kind of the thing I'm getting at here. I think Mullins is going to win. I'm not going to say we're going to get a repeat of the first fight because now they're in the UFC and somehow women's fighters get more boring as they get onto the UFC. But nah, hold on. I will actually pick a finish here. I'm going second round TKO for Melissa Mullins. I don't know when's the last time I picked a finish in a women's fight, but here it is. I'm going Melissa Mullins to finish Daria Zheleznyakova. Again, I just don't think Zheleznyakova is good. I think Melissa Mullins can take her down. I saw Eileen Perez take down Daria Zheleznyakova pretty easily. We saw Montserrat Rendon take down Zheleznyakova as well. Melissa Mullins, right, got Claudia Sygula down and finished her down there. I could easily see her doing the same exact thing here. Her loss to Nora Khanol, honestly, not that bad of a loss. Nora Khanol is a pretty good fighter, you know? I guess. I don't know. You know, it's tough with these unranked 35-pounders. Yeah, she's going to fight Carol Rosa next. She'll probably win that fight. Yeah, we'll see. That's a co-main event in the Apex? We're serious? Damn. Why didn't they just book Khanol in France like 2 months later? Anyways, I'm going to go here with Mullins. She won the first fight. She's going to win the second fight. I think the wrestling is going to play a huge advantage here for her. Zheleznyakova, we were kind of sold on, oh, she's a Russian kickboxer who now trains at an MMA factory in Paris. Great. She doesn't have any wrestling. So Melissa Mullins will eventually get her down and she'll get the finish. I'm going to go second round TKO here for Melissa Mullins, winning the rematch with her and the Iron Lady, Daria Zheleznyakova. All right, we move to our next fight, and it is a matchup here in the middleweight division as the Iron Turtle, Jung Young Park, takes on Morocco's own and Ismail Naurdiev. I'm split on this fight, okay? Out of all the fights in this card, there's one on the main card that's super difficult to predict. Actually, two on the main card that are really difficult to predict. You probably know them. This one's tough for me. I didn't think Naurdiev was going to be this big of a dog, if I'm being honest with you. And I think this is a great opportunity for plus money. I'm not telling you I'm taking him. Again, I'm going to give my official prediction in a second. I just think for a value play, plus 185 is not bad for Naurdiev. Because I could see him just going in there and finding a finish against Jun Young Park. I could see him just cracking Park's chin. We saw Park get knocked out against Gregory Rodriguez. And I get it, Robocop hits like a truck. I understand. But I could see Naurdiev finding the button and just kind of pressing forward and eventually kind of tagging Jun Young Park. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I think there's a potential for that. Naurdiev won his UFC return at UFC 308 in Abu Dhabi. He beats Bruno Silva by unanimous decision. Bruno Silva is so washed, it's crazy, as we saw in his last fight. Oh my goodness, the Marc-Andre Barriault fight. Remember when Bruno Silva fought Alex Pereira, where the winner was like a fight away from the title? Yep, the guy's now on a 5-fight losing streak, and I doubt he ever fights again. So I think the Marc-Andre Barriault victory over Bruno Silva actually, it hurts Naurdiev a lot, because it's like, all right, this guy's completely washed. Let's just be honest. And sure, Naurdiev beat him, but he couldn't even finish Bruno Silva. He had to wrestle Silva, which, I mean, it's kind of a pretty easy pathway to victory against Silva, because he's just a kickboxer, really. He's a Brazilian who doesn't have any jiu-jitsu and doesn't have any defensive wrestling. And Naurdiev just kind of went in there, won in the kickboxing, spots as well, but really grappled Bruno Silva and always made Silva, worried about that takedown. So Naurdiev wins. Jun Young Park, I mean, Naurdiev's going to have to try to strike with Jun Young Park. Because if he goes in the ground with Park, I don't think he's going to be too successful. A, I don't think Naurdiev's going to be able to get that takedown with much success against Park. And B, I think Park's going to try to wrestle him. I take that back. Andrea Muniz did take down Park 11 times. But I mean, Park's last fight beat Brad Tavares, was able to wrestle Tavares, got the fight down, won it by split decision. Yeah, this is why I'm split on this one, because I can see this going a lot of ways. Like, all right, Naurdiev didn't finish Bruno Silva, but he still won his UFC return. Obviously, this is a guy who went 2-2 in his initial UFC run. And that was capped off with a loss in February of 2020 against Sean Brady. I'm going Jun Young Park, though. Ever so slightly, I'm going to go Park. Again, I wouldn't bet it, and I think if you're strictly looking for value, I don't think this is the worst underdog to take on the card. It's probably actually one of the better dogs to take on the card, all things considered. But I do think Park's going to be able to pick up the victory. I do like what he's going to be able to, I like what I think he's going to be able to do in terms of the wrestling in this fight. Like, again, Naurdiev, we saw him wrestle Bruno Silva. I don't think it's going to be the same exact thing against Park. Like, say what you want about Andrea Muniz. That guy just grapples. He is a jiu-jitsu guy. He's going to go in there. He's going to try to grapple with you. He's going to try to get you down. And that's kind of always been what's hurt Muniz throughout his careers in general. Like, yeah, his jiu-jitsu is good, but his wrestling is just so I don't really put that really on Jun Young Park. Like, again, that wasn't great, obviously. But I think he's going to beat Naurdiev here. And Park's coming off the win over Brad Tavares, too. Like, there is momentum building for Jun Young Park. Naurdiev, again, I think his striking is all right. But I do look back on what he did to get back in the UFC. This guy wins one fight against a 14-8 fighter by guillotine choke in the first round. And then gets brought back to the UFC right after. Which I don't understand, because the two fights he had prior to that, he had lost in Brave. He got subbed in the first round via armbar and got knocked down the first round as well. So I think Jun Young Park's going to get this. I think there is a potential to the submission, but I'm just going to go safe bet here for the Iron Turtle fighting out of South Korea. I'm going Jun Young Park to beat Ismail Naurdiev, and I think he'll get it done in Azerbaijan by unanimous decision. We move on now to our next fight. Is this the featured prelim? No, it's not. It might be. I think this is the featured prelim. Yes. We go to the flyweight division. We've got Azat Maksum taking on Tagir Ulanbekov. Credit to both these guys taking this fight on somewhat short notice, about 3 weeks notice. Ulanbekov, I just say that because some of the Russians don't usually take short notice fights. I apologize. That's kind of just stereotyping all of them. Ulanbekov is a Makhachev. He's not the camp in Dagestan. He's the other camp in Makhachev, if I'm not mistaken. Anyways, Tagir Ulanbekov originally supposed to take on Kyoji Horiguchi. I was really pumped for that fight. I was kind of mad the UFC ultimately gave Horiguchi Ulanbekov because, all right, no disrespect to the guy, but, Horiguchi should be a top 5 guy. You gave Kaya Sakura a title fight in his first UFC fight back. Kyoji Horiguchi should be fighting for the belt, or he should be one fight away, not fighting number 9 ranked Tagir Ulanbekov. I just thought it was disrespectful, but you know what? Patchy Mix failed us all, man. For the hardcores of MMA fans who we watch the PFLs, we watch the Bellators. Great, pal. You come in, you said you were kind of overlooking Mario Bautista. This guy's not on your level, and you lose. And now, no guy from PFL or Bellator is ever going to get treated with respect no more. Other than, the top stars, obviously. Because, like, all right, Horiguchi, obviously, Ryzen champ, Bellator champ. They're booking him against number 9, Tagir Ulanbekov. I know that was made before the Patchy Mix fight, but it's like, man, we're going to get to Tafik Musayev later, by the way. Anyways, Tagir Ulanbekov takes on Azat Maksum, right? Maksum filling in for Horiguchi in this one. It'll be interesting. I just think Tagir is so much better than Azat Maksum. I don't think Maksum's good. I'll just be honest. I don't think he's that good. I know, again, people from that region of the world, like the Kazakhstanis, obviously, and, you know, hell, we see, obviously Shavkat Rakhmonov. We saw Asu Alekseeva get a UFC main event randomly, by the way, against Manel Kopp. But, like, right, like, we'll see those fighters from Kazakhstan, regardless, like, that part of the world, they'll get pushes because of, just the area that they're from and the record that they will get in the regional scenes out there, right? Like, Azat Maksum was a 14-0 regional guy before getting to the UFC. And in all fairness, he was fighting in Octagon, he was fighting in Brave. It's not like he was fighting in, random ass promotions in Kazakhstan. But his 2 fights in the UFC are Tyson Nam and Charles Johnson. He beats Tyson Nam, but he gets outstruck by Tyson Nam. And really, I don't know how Azat Maksum beat Tyson Nam. You watch that fight and Tyson Nam actually won. And Tyson Nam was like 40 when that fight happened. I think that was Nam's last UFC fight. It was. He's won back-to-back outside the UFC. Credit to him. But yeah, I don't know how Maksum got the nod there. I know this is pure box score watching, but still, like, Nam, and go back and rewatch the fight. Like, I get it, Maksum does a little more damage with the punches he throws, but Nam is outstriking him in every single round. Final strike total is 81-46 in terms of, or in favor of Nam. I thought Maksum won the first. Go watch the second and third rounds, though. Tell me Tyson Nam doesn't win those 2. Just be honest. Nam's, like, there's output in that, and Maksum really doesn't deal with it well. They give the nod to Maksum because they want to get rid of Tyson Nam, and then Maksum gets Charles Johnson, and he loses. He does drop Charles Johnson in the first round, but as the fight goes on, and that's the thing with Azat Maksum, he gets worse as the fight continues. He just does. His first round's always his best round. Tagir Ulanbekov is going to be in the fight for the full 15. He's just going to. I mean, a win over Clayton Carpenter in his last fight over in the Intuit Dome in Inglewood. A win over Cody Durden before that as well. Tagir Ulanbekov is a legitimate top 15 flyweight, top 10 flyweight in the world. Azat Maksum, I don't think's anywhere close, personally. I think he should be 0-2 in the UFC, and I really don't even think this is a competitive fight. I don't think it is. My question is, does Tagir Ulanbekov get a finish? I'm going to go no. I just think it's going to be 30-27. If Maksum wins one, he'll get the first, and if he does get the first, I don't know where the live odds will go, but if Maksum does get the first round, which expect him to, honestly, like, it wouldn't surprise me. I would still be very confident Ulanbekov wins the fight. But if Maksum gets the first, maybe we get Ulanbekov down to, like, minus 150-ish. Maybe, hell, minus 110. If we can get, like, about even, fire up on it. Ulanbekov. He's not losing this fight. He's too skilled. He's too skilled. Looked really good in the Clayton Carpenter victory, obviously, right? I would expect him just to dominate Azat Maksum. I don't think Maksum's on his level. Again, Ulanbekov is a legitimate top 15 guy. There's a reason they booked him against Kyoji Horiguchi. Azat Maksum lost to Charles Johnson and should have lost to Tyson Nam. Okay, Ulanbekov has the grappling advantage. Striking-wise, I do think, honestly, Tagir's got an advantage as well. I don't know if he's got a striking advantage. Probably does. Maksum, the thing with Maksum is, okay, he's not going to land with volume. He's not going to land a bunch of strikes. He's just kind of looking for the knockout punch, which at 125 doesn't bode you all that well. So as a whole, I think Ulanbekov's able to out-cardio this guy if it's on the feet, but who am I kidding? Tagir Ulanbekov's not going to strike with Azat Maksum. There's no point to, because the pathway to the takedown is there, and Tagir's a better sambo fighter and wrestler than Azat Maksum. So the Dagestani is going to win. I'm going Tagir Ulanbekov to beat Azat Maksum. This is going to be one-way traffic. Tagir Ulanbekov's going to win the fight by decision. Expect Azat to go for it in the first, and then just dwindle down as the fight goes on. So I'm taking Tagir. On to the main card. We kick things off here with a matchup. In the featherweight division, Muhammad Naimov takes on Bogdan Grad. We've got the Tajikistani fighter in Naimov, now fighting Elevation Fight Team, though, in Denver, taking on Austria Zone in Bogdan Grad. Kind of a tough fight to predict. For Muhammad Naimov, 12-3 professionally, coming off the Khan Ofli victory in February by unanimous decision. Good victory for Naimov, right? Goes out there, wrestles awfully, does enough in the striking world. Again, Naimov, don't expect much output on the feet. It's just kind of not what he does. It isn't what he does, I'll be honest. Expect a lot of output, though, out of Bogdan Grad. That's exactly what he does, right? So it's kind of a clash of styles to that level, to that degree, where, I'm looking at Naimov, I'm expecting him to wrestle, and then Bogdan Grad, we're just expecting, a lot of kickboxing. Bogdan Grad does have a 100% takedown defense rate so far in the UFC. The thing is, that's one fight and one takedown against Lucas Alexander, so don't get carried away with that, right? Bogdan Grad actually was doing some of the wrestling in his fight against Alexander back in Saudi Arabia earlier this year. Naimov's striking isn't that bad because he knocked out Jamie Mullerkey. He did all right against Nathaniel Wood. I mean, he needed to wrestle, obviously, to beat the prospect Nathaniel Wood. Eric Silva he finished, but Eric Silva got injured like 10 seconds into the fight. Maybe he was already injured and just wanted to get a payday. I mean, go get it, I guess. Naimov lost to Felipe Lima, which was kind of interesting. Yeah, he got caught in a rear naked choke. That's not great. But I don't think Bogdan Grad's not going to submit Muhammad Naimov. Yeah, I mean, the easiest way to put this is the clash of styles, I think. And here's the thing, though. Clash of styles, but Naimov will definitely compete on the feet. Okay, it's not a lost cause if Naimov can't get a takedown for some reason and is just striking with Grad. Like, Naimov has pretty good striking, right? We saw the victory where he knocked out Jamie Mullerkey. He got his contract into the UFC by winning on the world-famous promotion Tough Enough, which I've said before I don't think's good at all. But anyways, right, like, he got his contract by knocking out his opponent, who was 4-3. So the pathway to the knockout is there pathway through winning through striking is there for Naimov. The much easier path, though, is through the wrestling. Because Bogdan Grad, okay, this is a guy, high output guy. He's going to look for a finish. He's fun to watch. I will tell you, though, again, don't forget, he got knocked out by Tom Nolan on the Contender Series. Got knocked down in 1 minute and 23 seconds. Tom Nolan, 9-1 fighter. Same guy did get knocked out by Nicholas Motta, who I think's the next fight on this card. You know, right? Bogdan Grad, since that knockout, went to Cage Fight Series, I assume. 1-2 fights, beats Michael Acewell, on the Contender, and then beats Lucas Alexander in a really good fight, don't get me wrong. He's killer be killed. He's killer be killed, and it does present a lot of opportunities, I think, for Naimov to knock him out. And on top of that, again, the way that Bogdan Grad fights, I don't think he's too prepared to stuff many takedowns at Naimov. So with all things considered, I do believe Muhammad Naimov is going to win this fight because I do think there are multiple pathways to his victory. I think he could potentially rock and wobble Bogdan Grad early in this fight. And I think, again, obviously the wrestling, and here's my other thing, Muhammad Naimov is going to remain competitive on the feet. It's not like in some of these, grappler versus or striker versus wrestler matches, there are fights that we get sometimes. We're like, all right, well, this guy needs to get a takedown because if he doesn't get a takedown, he's going to lose. No, Naimov's going to remain competitive on the feet. And we say it all the time, too, your wrestling makes your striking better. So if Naimov is able to land that takedown and say, okay, Grad gets back to his feet or we do get to the second round, then that threat of the takedown is always going to be there. So I think Muhammad Naimov does win. I think him training in Colorado does benefit him a lot as well. I don't know what the elevation is in Azerbaijan. That's not the point I was getting to there, obviously. But, training in Denver, obviously, cardio's up. That means, again, you're going to be able to go deep into the fight. You're going to be that same guy in the 14th minute of the fight that you were in the first minute of the fight. And I do think Muhammad Naimov will pick up the victory here. I'm going to go with him to win against Bogdan Grad by unanimous decision. Again, Grad's best way to win, really only way to win, is to stuff takedowns and just out volume and out pressure Muhammad Naimov. But I do think Naimov's able to get to the hips. I think he's going to be able to wrestle. And I'm going to go with the Tajikistani fighter to win by unanimous decision. We go on now to our next fight, and here is the aforementioned Nazim Sadykhov. He wasn't mentioned, but taking on Nicholas Motta. Here's our first Azerbaijani fighter of the night. We have 5 more fights in this card, and 3 of them include fighters from Azerbaijan. So here's the first, Nazim Sadykhov, training now at Sarah Longo, obviously, over in New York. Is he crossed? I thought he was just okay, I'll be honest, Tapology's got him at Syndicate. I've kind of always associated Nazim Sadykhov with Sarah Longo, but I guess he's cross-training now. I could have sworn Sadykhov's one of, like, the Aljo Marab guys. Like, I know he is. I just didn't know he also trains at Syndicate. Anyways, Nazim Sadykhov, I assume he's still in the Ray Longo camp. Anyways, he's going to be taking on Nicholas Motta. Sadykhov's been good in the UFC, man. I mean, the loss against Vyacheslav Borshev, I was really disappointed, and I was pretty pissed off at his performance because I thought he easily could have won that fight, and I thought there was so many missed opportunities for Nazim Sadykhov in that one. Ultimately, it's just a draw, okay? If he had lost to Vyacheslav Borshev, I'd be really pissed off, but whatever. Whatever. He gets the draw, it is what it is. His last fight, man, was impressive. It really was. And not a lot of people thought he was going to beat Ismail Bonfim, myself included. So Nazim Sadykhov goes in there and gets a doctor stoppage win over Ismail Bonfim. So again, we can forget about the Vyacheslav performance because Sadykhov with a nasty question mark kick. Nasty. Lands right above the eye, if I'm not mistaken, on Bonfim. Cuts him wide open, obviously gets the doctor stoppage. Bonfim was outstriking him to that point, but obviously it only takes one. And Sadykhov, that was the kick that altered the rest of the fight. Obviously, they go to their corners at the end of the first round. Bonfim can't make it out, obviously, because the doctor stops the fight. So, brutal shot landed by Nazim Sadykhov, and now the hype's fully back, right? Because this is the guy who started his UFC run, winning on the Contender Series against Ahmad Hanzazada. Oh, that's the Predator. Oh, yeah, that's the guy who got arrested in Sacramento. Anyways, beat him. Good. That guy's a piece of shit. Beats Evan Elder by Dr. stoppage as well. Submits Terrence McKinney as the draw to Vyacheslav Borshev, and then obviously gets that Dr. stoppage victory over Ismail Bonfim. For Nicholas Motta, when I was going into this fight, I kind of just forgot Nicholas Motta actually has a winning record in the UFC, because you kind of don't think he does, I'm going to be honest. He should be 3-3, because the Trey Ogden fight was a premature stoppage. Ogden was likely on his way to win the fight anyway, but then it got ruled no contest. So Ogden got screwed. That was in a series of events where Ogden continuously got screwed in fights. Anyways, because Ogden was well on his way to win a decision, and they ended up robbing him. But anyways, Motta since that has taken advantage. He was a huge dog in the Tom Nolan fight, found a way to knock him out in the first round. Beat Mahashet, really dominated Mahashet, which didn't surprise me too much. I think we probably had Mahashet, but that wasn't too crazy of a result. The Tom Nolan fight, though, that was something. Was not expecting that. Motta started off his UFC run by losing to Jim Miller, beating Cameron Van Camp, who didn't he marry Diana Belbizia? I could have swore I saw that on Twitter. And then lost to Manuel Torres. So it's been up and down for Nicholas Motta. It is kind of kill or be killed, though. Like, this guy, again, right? Professional record 15-5. 4 of his losses are by knockout. It's a loss back in, loss back in 2018 by knockout, loss in 2016 by knockout, and then Jim Miller knocked him out, and then Manuel Torres got him with an elbow. And Trey Ogden was on his way to finishing Motta as well. Yeah, this is all the making for a Nazim Sadykhov hometown first-round knockout. I firmly believe that. This is why this is this high on the card, obviously, because you get the Azerbaijani fighter. He's at home. He's going to be the first ever Azerbaijani UFC fighter to fight at home. It's a big deal. Big deal, okay? He'll go in here. I hope he's not overcome with emotions, because, again, he's going to be the first guy to lead out the 4 Azerbaijani fighters on this card. Sorry, the 3 Azerbaijani fighters on this card. I think the only 3 Azerbaijani fighters now in the UFC. But I expect Sadykhov to find the finish. Nicholas Motta, he'll throw in his own right, but he's just not on that high of a level striking, I don't think, especially in Sadykhov's level, who, again, is a 3-0-1 fighter now. Sadykhov throws enough good stuff. Obviously, he's throwing a lot of good kicks like we saw in this Ismail Bonfim fight, obviously, right? Again, the question mark kick led to the finish. For as disappointed as I was in the Borshev fight, that was a good fight. Sadykhov does rock and almost basically has Slava Claus in the second, and he lost the first and third, don't get me wrong. It was a fight that Sadykhov, though, should have just finished in the second round. That's why I was so disappointed. And, even if we get kind of a back and forth affair and Motta is throwing back and he is landing, I've seen Sadykhov bounce back against Evan Elder, where Evan Elder rocked, wobbled him, put him down, and Sadykhov came back and ended up winning by TKO. This is a fun fighter, don't get me wrong. Nazim Sadykhov is kill or be killed, and at the same time, Nicholas Motta is kill or be killed too. So there's a reason this fight's in the main card. Yes, it's because the Azerbaijani fighter is in the fight, but at the same time too, right? This is going to be a war that I think is going to be won by Sadykhov. The simplest way I can put it is, I believe Nazim Sadykhov is a better striker than Nicholas Motta. I believe he's going to have a pretty big reach advantage too, if I'm not mistaken, right? Sadykhov 69-inch reach, and no, Nicholas Motta's got longer arms, really. Nicholas Motta, though, is short as hell. Sadykhov's got 2 inches of height, but he's got a shorter reach. Really. I guess. That's just the way Motta's built. He's got really long arms, but he's just built kind of odd. Anyways, I'm taking the Black Wolf. Give me Nazim Sadykhov to beat Nicholas Motta. I think he'll get it done by first round knockout. One of the easier lays on the entire card, don't get me wrong. But give me Sadykhov. As we go on out to the feature bout, or... Oh, fuck. I think this is the Curtis Blaydes fight now, though, right? Yes. As we go on now to our featured fight of the night, it's in the heavyweight division between Curtis Blaydes and the UFC debuting fighter in Rizvan Kuniev. I already talked about that fight. That fight was supposed to be on the Pereira Ankalaev card in Vegas a couple months ago. Blaydes had to pull out because there was some bad food, or I guess there was just something, there was an illness going around the PI that week. That doesn't really change anything for me, I'm going to be honest. Like, the same prediction stands, so I'm going to roll that old prediction, and we'll get back to the last 3 fights after. Again, like, that condition, it is what it is. It happens to the best of us, I guess. Curtis Blaydes will be fine. I expect the same Curtis Razor Blaydes that we were supposed to get in March, so roll that old prediction, and I'll see you after. We go to the heavyweight division. Curtis Razor Blaydes takes on Rizvan Kuniev. Yep, this is Rizvan Kuniev's first fight in the UFC, and he is getting to fight Curtis Blaydes on a featured prelim. I don't understand. Guys, if his last name did not end with an IEV, he would not be in this position. And it's not like he was some superstar in the PFL. I've watched Kuniev fight. He's not bad. He hasn't beaten anybody, though. He beat Hernan Ferreira. All right, guys, Curtis Blaydes would kill Hernan Ferreira. He would. He'd take him down, and Hernan Ferreira got taken down and dominated by Francis Ngannou's. Ngannou's good, but that's not what Ngannou usually does. He got taken down and dominated on the mat by Francis Ngannou. Curtis Blaydes would kill Ferreira on the ground. How does Rizvan Kuniev win this fight against Curtis Blaydes? The only way he beats Curtis Blaydes is if he catches him, I think. But even then, it's just like, I think Curtis Blaydes can out-wrestle Kuniev. I think he can. Just because he's from Russia, guys, I don't think he's that good. He got popped for roids in the PFL, and look at him now. Just look at him on the screen. This guy's fat. He's an unathletic heavyweight. Curtis Blaydes, again, isn't a built guy, but he is an athletic dude. And again, I don't think, unlike guys like, Cyril Gane and Tom Aspinall, who really win because of their athleticism, that's not what Curtis Blaydes does. But Blaydes is not a slow heavyweight. He's not a big, fat Shamil Gaziev type guy. And trust me, we love Shamil Gaziev over here. The title run starts now. John Jones, stop running from Shamil Gaziev, man. He just, he's scared of him. Gaziev's in the top 10 now. Which is absolutely ridiculous, by the way. I like Gaziev. Why is he in the top 10? We cut Rosenstrike, but welcome Shamil Gaziev to the top 10 of the weight class. Anyways, Curtis Blaydes, again, is not a fat, obese heavyweight. He can actually move, and he can actually strike. Now, who's Curtis Blaydes lost to in the UFC? It just in his career. He's got 5 losses. They are Francis Ngannou, Derek Lewis, Sergey Pavlovich, and Tom Aspinall. Rizvan Kuniev is not going to be the 6th. Guys, if Curtis Blaydes beat Jailton Almeida, who I think is going to challenge for the championship and potentially be the champion one day, I don't know if he can beat Tom Aspinall ever in his career, but I do think Jailton Almeida is going to be that 1B type guy in the weight class once John Jones retires and once the Aspinall reign officially gets going, right? I think Almeida is going to be that next guy in the heavyweight division for a very long time. If Curtis Blaydes is able to beat Jailton Almeida, the only guy to do so in the UFC, what the hell is he going to do to Rizvan Kuniev? Almeida is so much better than Kuniev. Again, Kuniev popped for roids after beating Hernan Ferreira. He tested positive for anabolic steroids, drostrostolone, metelenone, boldenone, and 19 norandestone. That just sounds bad. So again, coming off of, this is in 2023, he gets suspended for a year, comes back, the UFC gives him a shot in the Contender Series, he beats Hugo Cunha. This guy was not good, okay? I don't know where they found him. Actually, he was the LFA champion, wasn't he? He was the LFA champion. Guys, he was low level, I'm not gonna lie. Is he still the LFA champion? He is the LFA champion. But he's gonna fight a 5-1 Denzel Freeman, who's 33 years old. What is happening to LFA? Yeah, Isaiah Pinson beat Denzel Freeman in PFL. I swear, LFA used to have big prospects. They really don't right now. Anyways, not in all weight classes, obviously. Kuniev beats the LFA champ, knocks him out in the first round, but guys, he looks worse since, of course, popping. He was the Eagle FC heavyweight champion. He submitted Anthony Freight Train Hamilton over in Eagle FC to defend his belt the last time before Eagle FC went under. He's unathletic. He's fat now. He's not on steroids. Curtis Blaydes should maul this guy. He should. I'm taking Curtis Blaydes by 2nd round TKO. I think Curtis Blaydes is going to take him down and prove a point. Again, is Curtis Blaydes ever going to make the run for the belt? No, because Curtis Blaydes' entire career has always been centered around the fact that he can't beat the top guys. Whether it is Aspinall now, whether it has been Francis Ngannou in the past. Obviously, again, he lost to Derek Lewis when he was trying to, potentially a win away from the championship fight, or at least an interim shot against Cyril Gane. It's always been, again, he's been coming up just short his entire career. Do I think Curtis Blaydes ever wins the belt? No. I really think Aspinall is his last chance to get that shot. But just because he's not going to fight for the belt someday, or win the belt someday, doesn't mean he's not going to be the guy making his UFC debut in Kuniev, who took Hanan Ferreira to a decision when he was on roids. He looks unathletic now and he's fat. If he wasn't from Dagestan, he wouldn't be in this he wouldn't get this opportunity. He wouldn't. He'd be fighting Josh Parisian. He's not in the UFC anymore. He'd be fighting Hamdi Abdelwahab, or he'd be fighting Dontel Mays on the undercard on the first fight of the night. But he gets to fight, Curtis Blaydes is not a legend, but all-time great heavyweight. Again, like, always a top 5 guy, not one of the greats ever, but a staple of the UFC's top 5 of the heavyweight division. Why does this guy get to fight Curtis Blaydes right away? Curtis Blaydes should dominate, he should out-wrestle him, and he should maul him on the ground. Ground and pound TKO win for Curtis Razor Blaydes. He'll get it done in the second round over Rizvan Kuniev. We go on to our feature fight of the night, and it is the UFC debut of Tufik Musayev. I've been calling for this, actually, when I saw the UFC announced a card in Azerbaijan. If you remember my story earlier on in the video, like, I didn't know how to pronounce the country name of Azerbaijan until I started watching Tufik Musayev in Ryzen in high school. Anyways, Murtabak Orolbai is taking on Tufik Musayev here. I'm glad they're doing it. I was just a little surprised because he's 35, and out of all the Bellator guys you get Musayev. I like it. No, he's a rising guy who was scheduled to fight in Bellator last year against Alfie Davis. Fight fell through because Musayev had to withdraw from the fight, and now he's here in the UFC. Musayev's won back-to-back fights in Ryzen. This is a guy, again, former Ryzen champion, or tournament Grand Prix champion in 2019. Ended up beating Patricky Pitbull in the tournament final of that. Doesn't fight until 2021, so again, that Grand Prix in 2019 is actually where I learned out who Tufik Musayev was, showing you what I was doing on my New Year's Eve back in 2019 in high school. I was early in high school anyways. Tufik Musayev, no motion back then. Tufik Musayev fighting Roberto de Souza. That was his next fight in Ryzen. Interesting fight. It's quick. Roberto de Souza, what he's known for, right? Jiu-jitsu guy. He's half Brazilian, half Japanese, if I'm not mistaken. Straight BJJ fighter, right? Goes in there, immediately shoots for takedowns against Musayev. Musayev shucks him off. De Souza kind of just ties up again, basically pulls guard, gets on bottom, and Roberto de Souza throws up a triangle off his back and submits Tufik Musayev all in a minute and 12 seconds. Musayev then goes to Bellator, enters the Grand Prix over there, beats Sydney Outlaw in the first round, and then fights Alexander Chablis. So I was actually in attendance for Chablis and Musayev. I was really excited for that fight. I kind of had bought in to the Musayev hype a little bit. I thought Chablis was going to win, but I was really excited, and I thought potentially, okay, maybe Musayev, we're going to see an early finish because of the Sydney Outlaw victory. Well, Chablis beats him. First round is won by Musayev, looks really good early, and then kind of just in the second round, kind of just gets slower as the fight goes on. We see Chablis take over in the second, and then early third, Chablis kind of throws, I think it was kind of like an axe kick to the body, that right away, Musayev protests that it hits his cup. So Herzog stops the fight. They go to replay, and it shows, no, that's just a legal body kick. So Herzog tells Musayev and tells his corner to translate, like, hey, you got to get up right now or the fight's over. So Musayev gets back up, and Herzog's about to start the fight, and then Musayev wants more time off. And, like, given it's already been, like, 3 minutes, Herzog's like, no, we got to go. Musayev says, no, I'm done, and Chablis wins the fight. So Chablis essentially kind of just broke Tufik Musayev in the span of 6 minutes. Yeah, that's concerning because Chablis is good, don't get me wrong. Chablis is a really good fighter. Another guy kind of stuck in Bellator hell, I think, right now. I actually know he was booked against Premise. He just withdrew. He fought Usman Nurmagomedov, obviously lost in the Grand Prix finale. But Musayev loses to him, comes back to Ryzen, beats 2 guys, Ira, Okada, and Kyoji Takeda over in Azerbaijan in 2023. Wow. And now here he is. He's 35. Tufik Musayev, here's the thing. He throws really hard. He's a good striker. You can outvalue him. You can outpressure him, though. He is always going to look for that one big shot, but if you kind of can break him down, I think it's trouble for Tufik Musayev. I just would have liked him to fight someone not as good as Mursabek Orolbai, personally. Because, okay, matchup-wise, Orolbai is going to beat him, I think. There's not much to base off, the Tufik Musayev defensive wrestling game other than, I guess, the Roberto de Souza fight, where de Souza obviously just pulled guard. I just think the pressure and the pace that Orolbai can push is going to be really difficult in Musayev. And I think Orolbai is going to be able to kind of just wear Musayev down as the fight goes on, to the point where I think, again, the wrestling is going to play a big factor, and I think Orolbai is just going to be able to outpace him and outcondition him the entire fight. Again, I'll go Orolbai by unanimous decision. The thing about this, again, I think Musayev should have been fighting someone down the rankings. Not because I don't think he's capable of fighting top 25. Well, kind of, that is the case. Just matchup-wise, this is so horrible for him. They should have given him, would have been a perfect, like, he's at home. Give him a fight you know he can win, okay? Get UFC fans excited about the guy, and then give him Orolbai. They could have given him Louis Gradzabov. I wouldn't have minded that fight. Could have given Jamie Mullarkey. Mullarkey's going off back-to-back TKO losses. Just throw him in there. Say, all right, you know what? You want one more shot in the UFC? Go fight Tafik Musayev. That's what I would have booked. Hell, give him a Cal Fernandez. That kind of would have been interesting. You know? That's what I would have done. Not just throw him in there against Murtabak Orolbai. Or give him Rong Zhu. Rong Zhu's back in the UFC again, right? Yeah, give him Rong Zhu. Wouldn't mind that. But here we are. Orolbai's going to win. I think Orolbai, again, Musayev's good on the feet, but he's not great. He's, that's a hard way to put it. He's really good. It's just like, it's not though where, oh, you don't want to be there with Tafik Musayev. Like, he's going to knock you out. Get out of there. It's not to that extent. He's good. He's got power, but it's not to the point where, like, you can't just stand and bang with Tafik Musayev. Again, you don't want to take his big shots, but if you're able to pressure him, you're able to get into his face and always throw something out there, it is trouble for Tafik Musayev. And on top of that, I do believe the wrestling on Murtabak Orolbai is going to give Tafik Musayev a lot of problems too. Not because, I think Musayev's going to be stuck on his back in the entire fight. No, it's just the pressure and all-around pace that Orolbai is able to push. I understand he lost to Mateusz Rebecki in his last fight, which we didn't think was going to happen because Rebecki looked so bad against CDF in St. Louis in May of last year. But close fight, Orolbai barely lost. He did get dropped by Rebecki, which is a little concerning. I just think all things considered, Orolbai is going to be able to put the pieces together, and I think he's going to be able to just out-pressure Tafik Musayev here. Again, Musayev's 35. He's not getting any younger. I would say he's not even in his prime anymore because, hell, again, right, he fights at 155 pounds. 35 and 155, likely not your prime. Orolbai much younger in his athletic prime at 27. I think Orolbai's pace is going to be too much. I think the cardio is going to be too much. And I think ultimately Orolbai is going to win and beat Tafik Musayev by unanimous decision. Another fight that doesn't really, the former Bellator guys coming to the UFC and they lose again. It doesn't really, go the right way for the hardcores who've been watching Bellator and PFL. Not even to say like, oh, I'm a PFL lifer or I love Bellator. It's just I kind of want to see the guys that, they have all this success over there. And even in Ryzen 2, you want to see them have some success in the UFC. But I don't know. I think Orolbai's matchup-wise, it's horrible for Musayev. I think they threw him a really bad fight here. And I think I know why. The UFC doesn't like a lot of the Bellator guys coming in. They want them to lose, especially because there's so many of them. So I'm taking Orolbai by decision. Co-main event, the toughest fight to pick on the card. Rafael Fiziev versus Ignacio Bahamondes. Ooh, man. This is tough. So Fiziev's fighting already, he took some shots in the Justin Gaethje fight, like you're always going to in the Gaethje fight. Gaethje dropped Fiziev, right? Gaethje made improvements from the first Fiziev fight. He kind of widened the gap, I thought, between him and Fiziev from that initial fight. And I get it, Fiziev was coming off an injury and it was a short notice fight because originally that fight was supposed to be Dan Hooker. But ultimately, I felt like Justin Gaethje, again, widened the gap between these two fighters. Right, first round's won by Fiziev, but Gaethje really looks good in the second round, drops Fiziev in the third round, just, out-fights Fiziev, outstrikes him in the third. So Gaethje wins the fight 2-1. We'll see. He's threatening to retire if he doesn't get the title shot. I have a sneaking suspicion they're not going to have him fight Arman. They're going to go Arman and Paddy Pimblett. And they're going to say, okay, I have a feeling Justin Gaethje is going to be front row for the Topuria Oliveira fight. And like what the UFC did with Merab and Corey Sandhagen, they're kind of just, how they want to do that. Like, hell, when Edwards beat Covington, they kind of just, they had Covington in the front row. They kind of just said, all right, this is the next guy for you. I think that's what they're going to do for likely Topuria. They're going to say, all right, your next fight, Justin Gaethje. So get ready, right? I think that's kind of what they're going to do. Just so they don't lose Gaethje, and because they can get at least 2 more fights out of Gaethje regardless, right? Gaethje loses his title fight, he'll do a send-off fight, probably, I would assume, in Colorado, right? So they can get 2 more fights out of Justin. They're not going to let him walk. They will give him a title fight for the point of giving him a title fight. And also, if it is Topuria, legacy-defining fight. You go out there and beat Justin Gaethje, knock out Justin Gaethje. Or if it's Oliveira, rematch, okay. Another big fight. Anyways, Fiziev's fighting just after losing in March, which is something, I think. I'm not going to put anything in the Gamrot fight. That was a fight that was ended due to an injury, right? That's what started Fiziev's whole, of course, road to recovery and whatnot. The first Gaethje fight, super competitive, but Gaethje won. And I thought Gaethje should have won. Here's the thing. People forget how good Rafael Fiziev is, I think. I know, again, I've gotten a lot of hate for this in the past. I still think Bobby Green beat him. Okay, I watched that fight again. I still think Bobby Green beat Rafael Fiziev back in August of 2021. Okay, I will die on that hill that Bobby Green won that fight. But after that, right, Fiziev looks really good in the Brad Riddell fight. Spinning wheel kicks him, ridiculous. Beats RDA, finishes him in the 5th round as well. I know how good of a striker Rafael Fiziev is, right? I mean, I can talk at lengths about how good this guy is, right? Tiger Muay Thai is where Rafael Fiziev trains, right, over in Phuket, Thailand. But at the same time, Rafael Fiziev, he doesn't just train over in Phuket, Thailand. He is a coach. He is the head striking coach, one of the head striking coaches at Tiger Muay Thai, the best Muay Thai gym in all of the world. Okay, he's that good. He's a Kazakhstani fighter who I believe is of Azerbaijani descent. He flies the Azerbaijani flag, but he's born in Kazakhstan, and he apparently, I'm looking here, he went to college in Kyrgyzstan at the Kyrgyzstan Police Academy. That's something. But Fiziev is still really good though, okay? And I think we need to remember how good this guy is, and a injury loss to Gamrot and 2 losses to likely the #1 contender in the weight class doesn't mean he's not a good fighter. For Ignacio Bahamondes, this is a guy I was super high on early in his UFC run. I'm still high on him now, but here's the thing. I picked Ignacio Bahamondes in every fight that he had, including the Ludovic Klein fight, I believe, all the way up until he fought Manuel Torres. And then I took Torres to beat him, and then I also took Jalen Turner to beat him. Bad pick. But anyways, right? I think Bahamondes is great. I think he is. And every fight, like, okay, I guess the Jalen Turner fight, I was like, I just don't know if he's ready for this yet. And obviously he was, and Turner retires from the sport right after. Can he make that next step and beat Rafael Fiziev is the question. I'm going no. I think, again, Bahamondes is great. I like what he's got. Hell, he showed some grappling in his last fight by submitting Jalen Turner. We saw the way that he finished Manuel Torres in the 1st round in Noche UFC in 2024. The way he knocked out Yagos, obviously one of the greatest knockouts I've ever seen is the wheel kick knockout victory over Roosevelt Roberts back in the Apex. But that had a crowd, my goodness. Bahamondes is great. I just think Fiziev's slightly better. Rafael Fiziev's been right there with Justin Gaethje, man. He's taken rounds, multiple rounds off of Justin Gaethje. Obviously, right, Gaethje's won 4 out of the 6 rounds he's fought against Fiziev. But that has to mean something, that Rafael Fiziev is, winning rounds and competitive against Gaethje. Not to say Bahamondes wouldn't be competitive against Gaethje either. I think Gaethje would probably chin Bahamondes. Bahamondes is getting a lot better, don't get me wrong. Like, the thing the thing I had about Bahamondes early in his run, especially his first UFC fight against John McDessie, was like he left his chin wide open in the air. He's tall, obviously, so he can kind of afford that because, especially in that fight, McDessie was so short, he kind of had to reach up to try to, knock out or try to hit Bahamondes. And Bahamondes has gotten better at that, but that's the thing, he is still hittable. He's 6'3", he's tall, obviously, huge for the weight class. Fiziev's 5'8", so it's going to be, something that's going to be really something to look at. I just think Fiziev's better, though. I think so. I think, again, I think it's overlooked how good Fiziev can be. And I think this is going to be a really competitive fight. But all things considered, I'm taking Fiziev at home. Again, he's in Azerbaijan. Big spot for him. I think he's going to be able to get it. And I think Bahamondes is good. I just think Fiziev's a better striker. I really think so. The only guy he's ever been outstruck by is Justin Gaethje and then Bobby Green. But here's the thing. If Fiziev just pressures Bahamondes, which I think he should do, what is Bahamondes going to do when he's having to back up? The reach really isn't too much of a factor. You've got Fiziev, who's much shorter than you, though, pressuring you, blitzing you, and giving you all these different angles you have not seen in terms of striking before. What does Bahamondes do, and how does he respond? That's my thing. I think with all that considered, I do think Fiziev's going to win the fight. I think he can get it by decision. Again, the fights against Gaethje have both been great. They've been crazy fights that ultimately, right, Fiziev has gotten the upper hand on. I think he's going to get this one. He's at home. I think, again, close odds, obviously. Fiziev at -125, Bahamondes at +105. I'm going to go with the Azerbaijani fighter and Rafael Fiziev to beat Ignacio Bahamondes by unanimous decision. Again, we've picked against Bahamondes quite a bit. I'm not hate watching the guy. I just think again, eventually he's going to take an L, and I think it's going to be against Fiziev. The 3 losses to me don't really matter. This is still a top 8 fighter. He just got injured against Gamrot, who's still really good in his own right, as we saw in the Klein fight, and he lost twice to Justin Gaethje. Those are his only losses ever. Maybe Bahamondes is ready for the next step, and if he beats Fiziev, I will say, yes, this is a top 8 guy. I just don't think just yet. He's 27 too, is Bahamondes. He's got a lot of time. I'm going Fiziev. It's not like he looked bad coming off the injury too. He looked good against Gaethje. Won the 1st round. Just dropped the 2nd 2. Going Fiziev. Final fight of the night, our main event, Jamahal, Khalil Rountree. So hopefully this finally gets made, obviously, or finally happens, right? Originally booked Back in Utah, I believe. Is that when that was originally booked? No. UFC 303 in Vegas. Pereira, Prochazka 2. Khalil Rountree was supposed to fight Jamahal Hill. That was a fight that ended up actually being Roman Dolidze, Anthony Smith. I'm not going to go through all that. Anyways, Rountree doesn't get to fight because he got suspended due to consuming a banned substance, so likely roids. Anyways, they give him a title shot right after. They do the UFC for Khalil Rountree. They say, all right, you get popped, go on and fight Pereira. Fun fight, Pereira wins, but that was the UFC voiding Ankalaev a little bit. I'm not going to lie. For as much as I want Pereira to win the rematch, like, I can admit that was the UFC kind of ducking the Ankalaev fight for a little bit. Hell, the Pereira train made so much more money than Ankalaev, who never fights. Anyways, so Jamahal Hill then gets left with Yuri Prochazka. A fight that a lot of people had Jamahal Hill in. He was a favorite to win that fight. I didn't see that at all. I had quite a bit of U.S. currency on Yuri Prochazka. And Prochazka won the fight fairly easy. Well, not fairly easy. It was a competitive fight. It was 1-1 going to the third, but Prochazka ends up getting the finish. He was likely on his way to win a 2-1 decision anyway, but Jamahal Hill loses by knockout. And now where are we with Jamahal Hill? Back-to-back losses. After losing to Pereira at UFC 300, he loses to Prochazka, gets knocked out in both of those fights. He won the championship over Glover Teixeira, but he beat a 43-year-old Glover Teixeira for the championship in Brazil. Looked really good, but all of a sudden in that fight, oh, Glover's just old now. Jamahal Hill beat him, that's great. But this is a guy who was ranked 9 getting the title shot. His fight to get the title shot was Thiago Santos, where he knocked him out. It was great, TKO'd him. But back-to-back wins over Johnny Walker and Thiago Santos is what got him a title fight. And he took advantage of it. That is not Jamahal Hill's fault. That he just went in there, got the title shot, and won. Anybody would have taken that opportunity, and he won, obviously, in a fight that he was an underdog in. Then loses to Pereira, though. Loses to Prochazka. You've been knocked out in back-to-back fights, and you got to fight this guy next? I get it. Khalil's got the most hype he's ever had in his career, and that's coming off a loss, right? He got a title fight after beating Anthony Smith, and everyone, by the way, called me crazy for saying if Anthony Smith had beaten Khalil Rountree, you would have got a title shot. Anyways, Rountree beat Smith. It was that fight where obviously Rountree knocks him down. Smith is in classic Anthony Smith fetal position where he's curled up into a ball. Khalil Rountree's like chasing him around the cage. I kid you not, at the end of the fight where he's got his fist up in the air and he's ready to not, put that final shot in Anthony Smith, but of course the referee ends it. Rountree then gets the Pereira fight. He's competitive. Pereira wins, obviously. Pereira finishes him. You can make the case maybe Khalil won a round. I didn't think so. It's just I think it shocked a lot of people how competitive the first was. Because here's the thing. Khalil's a great kickboxer, right? Khalil's got really good kickboxing. He was finally given that opportunity. The Pereira fight was just made for obviously just to have a very fun fight. Because Khalil's been on that run, right? I mean, he had a really rough go early in his UFC career. I mean, he's been around for quite a bit. He was on the Ultimate Fighter season 23, which was Ion Jacek and Claudia Gadelha. Anyways, Rountree's been around for that long, right? His worst stint in the UFC, or worst run, was when he got knocked out by Johnny Walker, beat Eric Anders, and got knocked out by Ion Cutelaba in that fight where Cutelaba had the Hulk thing going on at the weigh-ins. And then Khalil lost to Marcin Prachnio after that. And when he lost to Prachnio, I was like, all right, this dude's done. Like, I'm sick of Khalil Rountree. Came back, had the nasty oblique kick finish over Modestas Bukauskas, finishes Carl Roberson, beats Justin Jacoby by split decision, knocks out Chris Daukaus, we also saw that one coming, and then finishes Anthony Smith. Is he on the Jamahal Hill level? I don't know, because the thing is, okay, Jamahal Hill, former champion, but who the hell did he beat? Johnny Walker? Okay, great. Thiago Santos washed Thiago Santos? 43-year-old Glover Teixeira? I don't know. And my thing is, Khalil did look really impressive in the Pereira fight. He was way more competitive than Jamahal Hill, and I get it. That's not how fights always go, right? MMA math does not work that way. Oh, just because Khalil was this competitive, that means, he's going to have a huge advantage over Jamahal Hill. No, obviously it's not how that works. But Khalil did go 4 rounds against Pereira. And Jamahal Hill, the first big shot he took, he went down. And Jamahal just got knocked out. I mean, it has been about 6 months. But he did just take a lot of damage in the Prochazka fight. And now you're back before Prochazka even came back, right? You're getting Rountree for the 3rd time. Obviously, they've never fought, but this fight gets rebooked again. To me, it just feels like Khalil Rountree's going to win. And ultimately, I'm going Khalil Rountree by first-round knockout. I think he's going to find that shot. I think he's going to. I think it's going to be early, too. I'm here to say I don't know if Jamahal Hill's that good. I don't know. You're gonna see striking, man. Jamahal doesn't wrestle. It's not what he does, you know? Like, Jamahal Hill wants to strike with you. He showed in the Pereira fight and the Prochazka fight, you know, I mean, those were talking points in both those fights. Like, all right, is Jamahal Hill gonna wrestle? Like, there are pathways. Obviously, he's never landed a takedown in his UFC career. He did have a lot of top control time in the Glover fight, because Glover was just trying to clinch up, obviously, and Jamahal, you know, would reverse positioning, or they just stuck in the clinch, and, you know, Jamahal would find a way on the ground. Or how Glover did pull guard, I believe, in that fight, too. Hill's not going to wrestle. If he wasn't going to wrestle against Pereira and didn't wrestle against Prochazka, he's not going to wrestle against Rountree. So you're stuck in a kickboxing fight with this guy. And I don't even think Rountree's, again, like an elite level guy. I guess for 205, he's elite now because the weight class is so bad. But I think Jamahal Hill's going to lose. I think Rountree's better on the feet, personally. I'm going to take Khalil Rountree in this spot. Hill's been knocked out in back-to-back fights. Rountree saw the Anthony Smith fight look good, knocked out Chris Daukaus. This guy has pure power, right? And he went 4 rounds with Alex Pereira. I don't want to make that the main selling point of why I'm picking Khalil here, but I do just think there are more opportunities for him to win. I think Jamal's not a bad striker. I just think Rountree's better, and we know Jamal's probably not going to wrestle. Rountree throws more stuff, and Rountree throws better stuff, in my opinion. So I'm going with Khalil Rountree Jr. here to beat Jamahal Hill. Also, Khalil might still be on roids, too. Which, like, hey, we said this in the Hamdi Abdelwahab fight. Like, oh, I'm taking Hamdi because benefit of the doubt, too. Like, we might have him on steroids. We might have Khalil on steroids, too. I don't know what testing they do in Azerbaijan, right? I'm taking Khalil Rountree Jr. to beat Jamahal Hill. I don't know what happens next for Jamahal, if I'm being honest with you. It's your 3rd consecutive loss, all by knockout, likely. That sucks. I don't know what to say. For Jamahal Hill, like, the UFC might say, you know what? Go on and fight the professional. Go fight Azamat Murzakanov. They should not do that, but they might. Who Joe Rogan says is the most underappreciated ranked fighter ever. I don't know. The winner of this fight, though, I could likely see fighting Ulanbekov, probably. Yeah, because they're probably going to do Prochazka, Ulberg. They should. Pereira, Ankalaev, likely Rountree, Blakovic. And then, I don't know, Dominic Reyes, Rakic, maybe? I wouldn't mind that. Yeah, that's how I'd book the weight class. Anyways, folks, thank you all for watching our UFC Fight Night Azerbaijan full card predictions. Obviously, with the main event being Khalil Rountree Jr. and Jamahal Hill. If you haven't yet, though, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy the video. Make sure to comment if you do disagree with any of the picks. Folks, thank you all for watching, and Mamba